What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to HVAC R&D, hosted by Rhydon Atzenhoffer. Hope y'all have been enjoying the heat and making some money during the busy summer season that has just kicked off. This episode, I have an awesome guest, and I'm excited to dive into a conversation with, so y'all know how this starts. Let's get it going. Yeah, come on. This episode of HVAC R&D is sponsored by BetterHelp. All listeners of the HVAC R&D podcast can take advantage of 10% off their first month of online mental health services with BetterHelp just by visiting the HVACRD.com vendor hub and clicking on the BetterHelp link to have discount code HVAC R&D automatically applied to your application. Just fill out your personal info and preferences, and you can be matched with a therapist to fit your time and lifestyle within 24 to 48 hours. It's HVAC busy season. It's hot. We're all working hard and long hours, but you got to remember to find a way to take care of the time to take care of yourself, as well as all the rest of your family and customers. The show is also looking for the next HVAC R&D powered by sponsor. If you're interested, please reach out via the contact link on hvacrd.com or drop me a line at hvacrd@gmail.com, and I will send you the 2024 press kit. I'm also grateful to be part of the 2024 AHR Expo Workforce Development Team that has been working with Chicago's Prosser Career Academy and High School, a local high school with a dedicated HVAC program helping to bring the next group of tradespeople into the industry. Huge thanks to Bosch for everything that they've done, and Bosch Home Comfort for stepping up massive for those kids, as well as Insight Partners, Hobbs & Associates, and the Air Control Concepts family of brands where I work, and also the Moore Sales Corporation for their support with extra boots on the ground in Chicago. Cannot be happier to have such dedicated partners on board for this project. If you're interested in helping the school with R&D and the rest of the team, please reach out to me about that as well. If this is your first time listening to the show, I welcome you. Thank you for taking some time to give me a shot. I am based in North Carolina, and the show is focused on research and development within the trades. The main objective is the pursuit of building a better, more knowledgeable community of HVAC professionals and fellow tradespeople by learning from the past and embracing new advances in the industry to help us all be better for the future. If you're not following us online, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd, and you can also search for the HVAC R&D podcast on LinkedIn, Tradeshounds, and Facebook. If you're not listening to each week's shows, please make sure to like and subscribe to the show, leave me a rating, leave me a review, share me with your trade crew. If you want to work with me, you know how to do that. Don't forget to check out the website and the swag shop and join the mailing list at the bottom of the page. So, with all that said, I'm very excited to welcome this week's guest. He is a renowned entrepreneur, service business owner, business coach, best-selling author, home service expert, podcast host, and host of the Freedom Conference. Please welcome the one and only Tommy Mello to the show.
What's up?
Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate the opportunity.
So, the way this show normally goes is me and the guest crack a beer and we start kind of just talking about the week. So, did you bring anything to drink with you to the show?
I got a water I'm going to crack.
Hey, that works too. Of course, it's after 5 my time. It's what? It's still daytime where you are. Are you on the East Coast with me now? For some reason, I thought you were West Coast.
Phoenix.
Okay, so yeah, it's not 5 o'clock yet for you.
Not yet, but a cold one does sound nice.
All right, I guess I will handle this one for us. I am on some temporary budget cuts with the beer choice, so we're drinking a USO Keystone Light. So support the troops. Happy 4th of July week. My wife had surgery a few weeks ago, so everything's a little tight at the moment.
Got it. Well, that's good beer. Anything, it's light and it's delicious.
That's right. So summertime is here. I'm assuming it's all hands on deck the same way for you that it is for us.
We cannot hire fast enough. I mean, I just said hi to the new group in town. There's 32 brand new A1 coworkers. And, I just talked to my COO. I want to get it up to 50 a month. That's the plan. 50 new guys per month.
That's awesome, man. And so I truly can't even fathom what it would be like to hire 50 people in a month. That's crazy.
You got to get started somewhere. You start with 1 or 2. It's the quality. I'll take less for really. I mean, it takes us to interview 100 to hire 1. So you got to understand, we're doing 10 hiring events across the nation a month, which every one of these take a lot of marketing, a lot of effort, a lot of traveling. There's a lot that goes into this stuff because one B player will set you back. I mean, I don't think people understand the quality of people you need to hire. My brain goes to a book called Who, Not How. And you get the right people. They self-police. They work weekends. They'll pick up shifts. They get reviews. They get referrals. They actually recruit for you. They're good at conversion. They're good at high tickets. And they make the customer really happy. And I don't think, these are unicorns, but they're out there, but they already have jobs. So recruiting is different than hiring. And you got to go recruit these people. You got to go find them. Instead of just posting, I try to find people like that. I posted an ad on Craigslist. Really? You thought they were
Craigslist.
Just all the people were waiting in the unemployment line for you?
Mm-hmm. But you would be amazed. That's what they think. It's a different mindset, different mentality.
The older mindset of the baby boomer is it's flawed in so many ways. I'm going to pay hourly. I don't believe in hourly pay. I'm going to work them to death. It's a job. They should be happy for a job. I'm fortunate to have the people I have. I mean, I work for them. I don't have this mentality of, hey, I took all the risks. I took all the chances. I should be the only one to win. I wrote the book Elevate, build a business where everybody wins, starting with the people that work with me. And I asked them to dream bigger, and I love it. I just got a text message this weekend of another homeowner, guy that's working his butt off, and he's buying his first house for him and his wife and kids, and it means the world to me. It's better than a record day. Watching him and these other coworkers I have winning truly is I've done very well over the last 5 years, and maybe I've changed a little bit. I don't know, but there's something better when someone else is winning that I had a part of.
Well, and it's one of those things. Once you learn how it feels to give and do good for others, and you get to see the joy it puts on their face, it's a different kind of joy that you have because you're putting good in the world. And a lot of people don't feel that or see that. And that's, but that also comes down to, there's a big difference between a boss and a leader.
100%. And there's a byproduct of a domino effect of the community, of their family, of their surroundings, that it does a lot more than just help one person when they win.
That's it. And it's building that team camaraderie, right? I think there's a lot of cases where, you remember what it was like being in the locker room in high school playing sports, and you want that camaraderie where you are in the modern workplace. People can say they don't, but, especially competitive men that were athletes or did sports, you crave that team mentality. But it's sometimes very hard to get people to foster that in business.
Well, that's why you got to hire competitive people that played sports or really try to do something well, whether it's play the trumpet, be in karate. Shoot, I don't care what you did, as long as you had to practice more than you played and you were competitive and there were awards and there was first and second place. Because I don't believe in tenure. I believe in meritocracy. I believe someone could come in and go right to the top. And, there's a lot of companies that just don't foster that type of environment and culture.
Nope, they don't. And I know what it's like to work at the place that does and the place that doesn't. And I'd much rather work at the place that does.
Yeah, all my guys have a scorecard. They know exactly what they're at. They know their warranty rate. They know how many reviews they got, what exact rating they got. They know their conversion rate, their average tickets, and they can see everybody else's. The only thing I don't give, you can reverse engineer how much people are making pretty easily. But I don't share their pay, but it's not hard to figure it out.
No, you can start figuring out when you realize what they're bringing in. If anyone else can. Where I am now, in a lot of ways, you can kind of see where everybody's at when you're on the sales side, because they want you to be like, if you go create it and you bring it to us, then you'll earn it, but you gotta go get it.
We help out a lot. I mean, we give them all the tools they need to succeed. If you don't make it here, if you don't build a career out of A1 garage door service and you don't go all in, I don't know where you're going to succeed. I mean, you could probably go to Starbucks, but, I don't think you're going to have. We give you the tools. We give you the PTO. We give you a brand new truck, $5,000 worth of the specialist tools you need. We don't really save any money at all. We just go all in on the best. And my hope is that you want to be number one. You want to win, but you're willing to help out your coworkers, because when they're winning, it doesn't mean you're losing. You see, business is a weird game. The client could win, the vendor could win, the business could win, and the technician can win, and the CSRs, dispatchers, warehouse guys. Like, it's all a team.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people feel like if they get good, then I'm not going to get the good jobs. And that's just a bad culture.
No, I completely agree with that. So not everybody listening to the show probably knows who you are. The majority of them probably do. But one of the things I really like to do is get a little bit of the backstory, kind of how you got to where you are. So, you mentioned A1 garage door service, but how did you even get to the point in your life where you wanted to be in the trades, you wanted to build your own business? Kind of how did everything start for you?
Yeah, well, I've been a hustler my whole life, and the hustler had to die about 7 years ago. But, hustling to me was, my mom got a divorce with my father when we were 7. My sister was 13. Mom worked 3 jobs, kept us in the same school. And I just really had a lot of weight on my shoulders as far as, like, don't ask mom for money. She's barely making ends meet. The church helped us out a couple of Christmases. She never really went to try to get anything from the government, but the church, she was more reluctant to ask. Or she did ask, I should say. So I had to figure stuff out. Mow lawns, pick weeds, shovel snow in the winter in Michigan. And being 7 and 8, 9, 10 years old, I didn't have a lot of bills. So I just had money. I mean, if I could pick up $40, $50 a week, that was good. That was more than anybody else had. Yeah. And then when I was 12, I got a job washing dishes under the table because I wasn't old enough. That was $4.05 an hour. Just had this, like, if you're going to do it, you got to go get it. No one's going to give it to you. And I'm really fortunate. I look back at my childhood and I actually smile. It's not this poor me, look at me, but it's also the furthest thing from a golden spoon. Luckily, we got to stay in our 1,700 square foot house in Sterling Heights. But everybody's like, man, you must have had a lot. It's easy for you to say. I'm like, you don't know. It's not a bad story. I mean, trust me, I had new clothes. It wasn't like I was like going to shop at the Salvation Army. But it wasn't easy. But I wouldn't have changed a thing because it kind of shaped me into who I am today. My mom just told me I could do anything I want. She loved the shit out of me. She would back me up. She'd go make it on filters. My dad taught me winning is important. So we're not giving away participation trophies. I used to do 100 push-ups everywhere I went with my dad, and he was my soccer coach, my baseball coach. He was still involved. He went through a hard time. I mean, he owned a transmission shop and lost it, IRS crap. So entrepreneurship was kind of in my DNA, and kind of fell into the garage door industry through a roommate painting garage doors for him. And he worked for a pretty big company, and I could paint 10 doors on a Saturday, 10 doors on a Sunday. I'd make 2005 and 6. I was bringing in $800 in profit on a Saturday, 800 more on Sunday.
Nice.
Met a bunch of technicians, and they were making 90 grand a year. I said, I need to get into this business. So me and another roommate started a business, made every freaking mistake in the book. 2010, I went a separate direction, took on the debt. He left the business, and the rest is history, man. But if there's a mistake to be made, I guarantee you, I fell down so many times. I mean, I've almost lost it all a dozen times. I've missed payroll and had to write a check from a mortgage loan. I've literally had to borrow money. I've had trucks flip over. I've had the police show up for stolen. I've had drugs happen at a customer's house. I've had a toilet get backed up for a guy shitting at a customer's house. I mean, if it could happen, it did happen. But the good news is I'm not afraid of failure. And you can't take away anything of a guy that never had anything to begin with.
No, and that reminds me a lot of so my dad was a heating contractor. I grew up in a business. My mom was a school teacher. Mom loved me to death, told me I could do everything anything I could do, similar to the way your mom did. And my dad never gave me allowance. He said, you can have nothing or you can have a paycheck. So, any chance I got from 5 till whenever, I was in a work truck with him going to work because that was the only way I had any money. But I paid for college without anything else because of that. So I completely understand, having parents that taught you the value of work ethic. And if you go and you practice and you do what you say you're going to do, you can be successful. But I also watched my dad go through all of those doing it wrong things with business because he had no formal business training when he started his company. So I've seen exactly a lot of what you're talking about.
Unlike my father and my grandfather, I'm not a man's man, take it apart and fix anything I used to. Now I go ask for help. I'm the first person to go find the number one person in the world. And whether it's a best-selling author, a specialist of some sort, or Success Leaves Clues, they've proven a track record. And I can see they're at the top. And I find specialists, and I invest a lot into myself, into learning, into podcasts, into books, into getting mentors. And I'm not afraid to ask. And I think that's probably one of my best attributes is maintaining the dumbest guy in the room mentality of just who can help me. Because someone's already been where I want to go, whether that's getting to the top of simple things like House or Pinterest even. It sounds stupid, but I'm going to master those things, and it's going to be a lead gen. Everything I do, I don't just want to be at the top. I want to be number one. Like, I don't have this idea in my mind of, we'll see how that goes. I'm like, no. Someone's making it work. We're going to dominate. We're going all in, and we're not stopping until we master this and it becomes, we're number one. And that mentality is hard to come by because a lot of people are like, okay, being okay.
Yep. Completely agree with that. You see that every single day, no matter where you go.
Business owners, a lot of business owners did this because they felt like they knew how to do the job. They didn't know how to hire. They didn't know HR. They didn't know accounting. They didn't know tax law. They didn't understand marketing. They don't really understand culture. And that's the anomaly is good workers get into business saying, man, they must be making a lot of money doing this, but they have none of the skills.
No, because they went and built themselves a great job, but they're spending so much time, books, E-Myth, which I pull that one out all the time. But, you can't spend all your time working in it. You got to work on it. But not enough people know how to pull out and see that 360 view looking down at the business to figure out how to start moving the pieces to make it work.
Yeah, most people, they're caught up in the day-to-day. They're making as much as they'd make working for somebody, except they're taking all the risk and they're not building their asset. I'm in a room all the time talking to anywhere from 100 to 1,200 people very often. And I say, how many people want to sell their business for the next 5 years? No hands go up. I say the next 10, a couple goes up. And I'm like, why? Why don't you build up the asset? Because you could get this crazy thing called arbitrage. And you could be a millionaire, and then you got a lot of choices. People are like, oh no, this is my baby. I'm going to build it to be 100 million. I'm like, why? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like, why? Like, you're going to enjoy your life in 15 years? Well, once you have money, there's all kinds of opportunity that happens. Like, the money makes money, it compounds. And people are they're just married to this, and they're not going to, they go to their kids' recitals, they go to their kids' baseball games and whatnot, but they're never really present. And I'm like, if you treated this as your asset, you'd get branded correctly, you'd be serious about knowing your numbers, and you'd build it to a place that it could change your family tree forever. And then guess what? You sign a non-compete, you could go do it everywhere else, but now you've got experience on how to sell a business. So the second time around, it's even easier. Nobody has that experience. You know, I do. I sold half of A1 to an amazing PE company. I still retain like 49%. And it was the best decision I've ever made. I've been at the right place at the right time. I've been very lucky, but I've also had a lot of unfortunate things happen. Small things. The big wins are way more. They stand out way more than all the little things that went wrong, because luckily I didn't have a lot of money when I made a lot of those mistakes, so I couldn't lose a lot of money.
Well, so speaking of that, so 2008, you are now one-man show, no partner, no employees. You're about 50 grand in debt. What was your next step there, and how did you start to turn the ship around?
Well, 2010, I had a couple 1099s. I got my mom and stepdad to move out from Michigan because basically I needed people I could trust that would show up every day. Back then, when you don't know what you're doing, trust is the most essential element. That's like the key ingredient.
100%.
I trusted them. They took a chance on me. I paid them very little. I think Bill made 65 grand, and my mom, I gave $15 an hour or two. But I continued to move them up. 2014. And by the way, I got a master's degree from 2010 to 2012. So I was doing that while I was working. And I learned a lot about search engine optimization, and reviews back then mattered way. Like, I was the first one to actually get reviews. And I was like editing videos and building backlinks. And I just got obsessed with marketing. 2014, found a good second in command, my integrator, Adam. 2017, got onto Service Titan, first company outside of HVAC, plumbing, electrical. Literally begged my way into that. Met a guy named Al Levy after I started the podcast. He came in, paid him several hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it was my number one mentor, the 7-Power contractor. He taught me about manuals, standard operating procedures, checklists to run a business where you don't need to be at because the systems are running it. We got the org chart dialed in. We literally built everything out, and I hired for the things I hated. So I actually enjoyed coming into work, and he taught me how to delegate. And we were at 17 million when I met him. Next thing you know, we jumped to 30 million, and he goes, you need to rebrand. You need to get branded by this company called Kick Charge. He goes, your brand sucks. And so I did exactly what he said. And I met Dan Antonelli, got rebranded at 30 million, flew up to 100 million literally within a year. And I really learned how to pay attention to the bottom line. I used to pump out my chest and say, revenue. How much are you doing? And then I started to change the conversation up. How much profit are you making?
Yep.
Because I've noticed that a lot of people, lots of guys on social media, they're like, oh yeah, we're doing 20 million a year. They're not keeping much of it. And I think I've got a lot more pride in the fact that we make a really healthy profit, and a lot of the people are winning around me.
Now, when you first started, I'm assuming it was all in Arizona, correct? Where was the first place you go? California? Or how quick did you start spreading now that you're in 20 states, or did all that start happening once you went private equity?
No, I don't think we're in any. We might be in a few new states because of PE, but I went to Tucson because I'm in Phoenix. I wanted a place I could get to quickly to solve problems if they went wrong. And then my sister, my only sibling, is in Milwaukee. I spent a lot of time in Milwaukee, and I still do. I'm headed there Wednesday. And so I launched in Milwaukee knowing I was going to spend a lot of time there. It gave me an opportunity to be closer to her, my niece, and my nephews. Nice. So it's kind of sporadic. I went no reason except for people I knew, and I was going to spend time there. So I went Phoenix, Tucson, Milwaukee, Vegas. Never went to California. California is not an easy state to work in. You're guaranteed to get sued. I'm not afraid of that, but I've got options. Why jump into a lawsuit?
Yeah. Why add headaches? You have enough of those already naturally as a business owner.
California is the most beautiful state. I was there last week, but they're so anti-business. They're so big government. They're so get in your way. I haven't seen them it stunk everywhere in San Diego. The homeless was just homeless everywhere. Kids watching people shooting up and pooping and just, it's such a beautiful state too. It's a dirty shame that they embrace that. I'm not going to go too much into this, but it's just very hard. It's a place where a small business will do very well. If you get too big, you've got 100 litigators calling your employees saying, there's a way you could sue these guys for a class action lawsuit. You're going to get sued.
Jeez. Yeah, no thank you. So, okay. So now did you try to start connecting the dots? That way you could just go on a tour and end in Milwaukee and then come back?
Not necessarily. I picked markets I knew we would do good in, but I made a lot of mistakes. There was a time where I had a buddy, Keegan, with Best Home Services come out. We built a really cool relationship, and he had helped me quite a bit, just like Ken Goodrich, just like Leland Smith, I literally flew out to these guys' shops and spent a lot of quality time with them. For some reason, because I was very humble, and I begged and pleaded with them. I'd buy them lunch, I'd buy them dinner. They opened up their doors to me. And Keegan flew into Phoenix and told me, he goes, you got to he looked at my P&L for every market. He goes, you got to close 4 markets. And I said, okay, I will. If we don't work out and I don't get the right managers, I'll close them. He goes, no, you need to close these today.
Jeez.
And I was like, well, I've got employees there. I got to work through this. And he's like, no. Give them a relocation package. Close them now. He's like, Tommy, you're bleeding bad. He's like, you don't understand. You might have to close your doors if you don't do this today. He's like, you'll be at 20% if you close these 4 markets. So I had to close Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, and Tampa. No one knows all these stories, and I could go on and on.
Now, was that because they were it just couldn't get off the ground, or the market was too saturated, or?
No, I've already gone back to Houston. It's a $40 million market. Those other 3 I'll be in very soon. We were growing too fast and not focused on the people or leadership. These guys were
makes sense.
Sleeping at the shop, having liquor parties, just not really. I had no way to keep my eye on things. There was no accountability KPIs. There was no. The technology now is so much better. I got dual cameras. We got GPS. We know if there's an OB2 sensor issue. Just the checklist. Everything's so much better ran. I just got overzealous and decided I'm going to go plant as many seeds as possible and water them, but I didn't know how to water them.
Well, and I think that's an important thing too, because there's a lot of people that are trying to grow. But if you don't figure out how to grow what you have, it's hard to go plant stuff and create more without having, again, processes, everything else in place.
A lot of people like me and business owners, we really are into this growth mindset, but we don't realize you should be making the most amount of money in your current market. You should own that market. You should have the business ran off of processes to where you don't have to be there. And until then, you don't expand. And a lot of people don't have a lot of money and they're like, where am I going to expand to? I'm like, well, if you can't make money in your own backyard where you went to school and where your family and your friends and your neighbors are, you're going to create a mess. What makes you think that expansion is the right move?
And that's a good question. When is expansion the right move? Just when you have the money to do it? And that's really the only answer?
No, I don't think it's the money to do it. I think it's that the systems are so good. If you rinse and repeat it, it's going to work. But listen, if you have a blueprint and you're with the right companies and mentors to help you, it makes it a lot easier. But if you can't get to north of 15% bottom line, there's no reason to expand. And everybody says, well, I'm investing in growth. No, you're not. So you keep telling yourself, what's investing in growth? Are you buying more vehicles? Are you investing in trainers? Why don't you have any money? Everybody, oh yeah, I've invested in growth. Why not invest in profit? Why live this ordinary life for so long? Why do you keep lying to yourself? I can't stand people, and I've done this, and by the way, everything that I'm saying I can't stand, I'm guilty of, or was at one point. But these people lie to themselves. They say, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to work out. I'm too busy to spend time with my family. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. Yeah, you don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand my market. You don't understand my industry. You don't understand. And I'm like, what? Dude, the biggest problem people have is they believe their own bullshit. Like, they literally believe the stuff that's spewing out of their mouth. Like, you don't even know what it's like. You don't think I know what it's like, of all people? I didn't come from the, like, trust me. I thank God I had a mom and a dad, and I know there's people that came from less fortunate environments than I did. But, you know, everybody wants to say it's easy for you to say, but they don't know I'm an overnight success of 2 decades, right? So there was a lot of bad stuff that happened, and I know what it's like to have 500 competitors in a market and be undercut. That's why I don't sell apples to apples. I sell oranges. I give options, and I focus on conversion. Like, I love the game of business. Like, Tiger Woods loves golf. I love business. Like, it'll never get old for me. It's my passion. And I think there's a lot of people that decided to do business because they didn't like working for somebody, but they don't really have a passion for the business.
Correct.
They don't like the things that go on within it. They did this because they're like, I'm a good worker and I hate working for people. And I could make a business. I might as well do it for myself. It's different than you find somebody that's all in, willing to like fail over and over, that's willing to leave a movie theater, break up with close relationships because they're willing to risk it all. Most people they're not making calculated risks. They start with nothing. It's 5 years minimum of sweat equity. And then they say they deserve a Harley and they deserve the second home. They don't deserve shit. Reinvest it back into the company and watch that asset blossom. Everybody, we deserve it. We never did. And then you're just resetting the clock every time you do that. It's
Absolutely.
like resetting the mortgage. You got a better rate, but now you got to reset the clock for 30 more years. It's the dumbest thing ever. People don't realize these things.
So we've kind of went through employees. We've talked about different things, strategies. So because of your appreciation and your desire for mentorship, I'm guessing that's really what helped to inspire the creation of the Home Service Expert brand, the podcast, all those other things that you started to create, is because that's kind of, you had so many people give to you. You're working on finding a way to give back to others that want that information.
Not really. I think I was selfish in 2017 and wanted to have the experts come on my podcast so I could learn. I mean, it didn't come off as like the super selfish thing, but I just said, how can I get the best of the best in the world? And it wasn't a big podcast, but I never missed a week. Never missed one podcast. If you look back, every single week, never missed one in the last going on 8 years. Never missed one. So it was dedication, consistency, discipline. But it was cool. If I needed help, I'd go get a podcast guest that could help me. If you listen to like 1 through 100, you'll understand the growth. A lot of people listen to the podcast since the beginning, and they're like, they binge listen, and they're like, dude, this is the roadmap to get to 50 million. And then the next 100 was the roadmap to get to 100 million. And then, because I'm asking questions, people are like, well, how do you get from 5 million to 20 million? I'm like, well, let's go back and listen to the podcast, what was going on in my head back then. Now the technology's changed a little bit, but same concepts.
But your desire for mentorship really was the selfish creation of it, because you were finding a way to get as much information as you could in just one other vehicle. So no, I completely understand that. I'm guilty of it. I've missed plenty of weeks, even this year. I just have. And that's on me too. I get it. It's almost like I'll sit here and I'll call myself out for some of that, listening to you speak. But it's the truth.
I've got ADHD. It's contained. It's actually a good asset to have in business. The one thing I would tell people is every business owner has a sliver of ADHD. And when you're like me, if you have people that keep you organized, manage your calendar, keep things in files. And not when I mean files, I mean Google files or Drives or Bing or whatever. Outlook.
Yeah.
Once you get everything organized, we're superhumans. We can accomplish more in a day than most people get done in 10. It's just the organization. Like when I go home to a clean house and the office is clean and everything's got a file and every whiteboard gets syndicated onto a file in the right spot and the meetings get booked right, it's like I could go 10 years faster.
Yep.
And I don't think people understand that. But without organization, I'm a disaster. Well, if I don't have the right people helping me, like I will literally, when I say I can do 10 days in one, I couldn't get done in a day for 10 days if I didn't have organization and the right people. So there's a great book called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And I'm just really into this concept of getting the right people on the bus that Jim Collins would do great. And I don't know why, but I'm always in the right place at the right time. And it's getting easier because those hard mistakes and those bad decisions I made early on, I made them early. I made them young in business. I made them when I didn't have a lot of money. So now I've got the metaphorical scars and bruises all over. That now I could go into any business, and I mean this in the humblest way. Like, I feel like I could fix and create mega wealth in any business. And I've invested in other companies, and not one of them hasn't doubled the first year. And usually, if I don't find a way to get to 100 million out for my investments, then I don't do the deal. So you can imagine all these deals are doing very, very good.
Now, what other industries are you, or can you speak about that? But what other industries besides garage doors have you went into within the trades?
Well, there's not a whole lot of industries I'm not interested in getting into, but water mitigation. I'm involved with some HVAC plumbing stuff out of the country. More of just an investor, but I do help out. You know, software is probably the coolest thing I love because software gets a multiple of revenue instead of EBITDA or profit. I think in this ever-changing world of technology, the best software wins and the most data. So I've done a lot of things. I've invested in a bar recently that will pay me $150,000 a month for the investment, plus it'll 3x in 3 years. Because I know I used to work for the guy 20 years ago, and he's a genius. He's 70. He's going to be exiting, and they'll do $1 million a week in Vegas. And I just get behind great people with great ideas, and then I'm not going to help out the bar. That's completely 100% passive. I do nothing. And then home service companies, usually where I start is I look at the data. I look at how good their numbers are. Usually they don't have good KPIs, good financials. So we start with that because we don't know what's broken until we look at the facts. And then we look at conversion rate, average ticket, booking rate, cost per lead. We fix that. And we find economies of scale. And because I've got a pretty decent reputation, I can go to the vendors and ask them for more. Because I've never met a vendor I've told I was going to do something to and didn't keep my word. So there's a lot of opportunities for scalability. But there's really not anything I'm not interested in. But also I'm the CEO of A1, so I've got a whole team. I've got Tommy Mello Ventures. I've got a pretty big team that works on my investments. So I could look from afar, but they handle the heavy lifting.
But again, that comes down to hire the right people for the right jobs. That way you continue to do the things that you enjoy and make it work.
Well, how do I help them win? Everybody's gets a stake in the outcome. When the company wins that we invest in, I kind of run it like a mini PE company where they're actually earning equity in the business. And so they've got exact alignment with winning. Like they make out. And I don't think a lot of people understand these performance pay models that actually have people have skin in the game, so where they feel like they're an owner and they act like they're an owner and they make decisions like an owner.
Well, and I think there's a lot of trade stuff where people hear that someone's paid on a performance or commission basis, and they immediately think that every single technician that does that is a liar or is a bad person. Now, are there people that will take advantage of that system? Yes. But the majority of these technicians that work on those style of systems do it because they know they have a vested interest in that company and growing it and helping to move forward because they all win.
Well, here's the deal. Performance pay could be a lot more than just commission. You can look into warranty rate. You can look into how many reviews they got, what their average review is. You can look into different things like conversion rate. I believe in performance pay, not necessarily commission. Number two is I look at hourly like a lazy piece of shit. Just like all the guys listening look at performance pay or commission like they're going to do something probably not great for the client. I look at hourly like they're going to milk the clock and barely fix anything and not give any options and have a lot of windshield time and they're pieces of shit. I paid hourly. That not everybody hourly is pieces of poop, but the thing is, all they're looking forward to is time and a half. There's no incentive to align the interest with the owner, the management team, the leadership team, whatever you want to say. So the same way that people might be listening, and I'm not afraid of being controversial here because this is just a podcast. And I mean, I've learned these things over time. Now, people may disagree, and that's how you grow, is you disagree, and you might be able to align with some of my thoughts, and maybe you don't. And that's okay. And I know a lot of people that are successful with hourly. I just feel like, people brag about giving people, they pay less, and they charge less, and they brag about holding their most important asset, their employees and their coworkers. They brag about, this guy made 80 grand. The guy's working 60 hours a week. He's still living in an apartment. He's not able to spend any time with his family. And the owner's happy about giving those cheap prices. They're happy about giving clients good deals, but they're actually holding every employee down in poverty. 80 grand's not poverty, but 60 hours a week it is, just because a guy's got to work time and a half to crawl through attics and not be a good dad because the leader's kind of forcing them to. And hourly people, I would not want anybody hourly coming to my house that just hanging out, just barely getting by, just milking the clock, just taking a long lunch. I want it done right. I want a checklist. I want you to give me options. I want you to tell me everything you do to your own house. If I walk in to get to the cell phone store, I want to be offered every cell phone that they would get for their mom. If I walk onto a dealership, I want to know what cars, why you'd get it. Do we get the tint? Do we get the alloy wheels? What do you love? Why? I think it's important to educate the client because I don't give ultimatums, yes or no. I give options.
Well, and that's how you win with a customer. You give them the freedom of a choice. You don't just say, this is it or nothing.
Well, not a lot of companies have that mentality, and it's okay because that's better for guys like me, because if they don't give options, most likely they're not going to have a high conversion rate. And it's going to be, this is your only option. And they don't understand the science behind persuasion. And if you just read How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, you'd understand that people want to be treated like a friend. And they want to be listened to, and they want to know what's going to be best for my use case. And we could do suggestions, but ultimately it's up to them. And it's prejudice not to give them every option just because they had bad landscaping, or just because they're rich, give them the top option because they live in a big house. I think it's important to make sure your routine is the same. Black, white, Cuban, or Asian, rich or poor, old or young. I don't really care. I'm going to give you the same thing every time, so I never have to wonder if you heard it the same way, because they listen to the call and then they start ranking it differently. We call ours the 8-step process that works every time because it's flawless.
And that's what you don't see, So I'm an outside sales, territory sales manager for heating and air conditioning. I deal with contractors, and I've got groups of guys that'll give 3 options, and I have other guys that'll give 1 option. And then, there's also companies that they won't even quote to repair it. They'll only quote to replace, no matter how old it is. So it gets harder and harder to find who's actually giving you the options. And I don't know where the disconnect was. When I grew up, we always, even working in my dad's business, we gave you every option you had. Like, this is what it would take to repair it, but here's what you may have to deal with later on. This is what it is to purchase, the minimum to fix it. This is what it is to replace it. So we would give them, the customer, the truth and say, here's your options. And most of the time it was like, well, what would you do? And then you just talk about it and you say, this is what I would suggest. It doesn't always mean it's the one at the top. It may be someone in the middle, or depending on the situation, you can, read the room with the homeowner, but it allows the homeowner the opportunity to feel that you actually care about their situation rather than just cram a solution down their throat.
Well, there's a lot of investigative work. How long are you staying in the home? How many kids do you have? How often are you on vacation? The reason I say kids for garage doors, how many people are using the door each day going in and out? That's cycles. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that go into this that we got to ask questions to learn about their lifestyle. Do you go on vacations a lot? Do you want a video camera in here when the neighbors need to come by to turn on the faucets, make sure the toilet's not running? There's so many things that I've learned over time. And what's very cool is because I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of technicians, I get to see the elite of the elite, and I spend most of my time not finding what's wrong with technicians, but I find out what's going right. I call the top 10 guys every month, and sometimes it's different, but usually the same. and I get to learn from them. And then I just became I'm the guy to disseminate it all over the place.
Yep.
Like, I'll ask them, and then I'll make sure the information gets to everybody.
So moving through the rest of your career, the other huge thing that you've done is you're also an accomplished author for being published in different publications such as Forbes and Entrepreneur, but you're also a best-selling author of books. So kind of how did you get into deciding you wanted to get into writing and start sharing information that way?
You know, when I read a good book, it usually has a lot of stories, and it's by somebody who's done it. And I had a lot of stories, and I felt like, man, like some of the books I read, somebody spent a lifetime of their information and their knowledge to write it. Those are the best books.
Yep.
And because I had so many mistakes and hard lessons, I said, someone's going to want this story. Someone's want to go through this. So Al Levy read my book and said, this is garbage. You got to start over. So I wrote The Home Service Millionaire, and I decided to get 12 co-authors. I decided to find the best of the best in different, whether it's CRM or financial planning or manuals like Al wrote, or, lead sources and just all kinds of financing. So Home Service Millionaire was 12 co-authors, and it turned out to be pretty darn good. It literally had lessons from the best of the best at that aspect of the industry in the home service spot. And so what I tend to do is I don't think I'll ever write my own book. One book on ADHD I'll probably finish up I'll still have people that raised an ADHD kid, and I'll have I'm putting an epilogue because the book's fiction, but for the most part, I'll always write with people that are experts in their field to kind of back up the research and the knowledge.
So what brought you, Home Service Millionaire, the first one come out, and then now you've just recently done Elevate, Build a Business Where Everyone Wins. I'm guessing most of the inspiration with that is really just helping guys to start figuring out how to create a culture.
Yeah, well, starting out with what your goals are. What's in it for you? Why would you work hard? Why would you focus on KPIs? I don't need to do performance improvement plans. I need to remind you of your why. Your why was your dad is 78 years old. Tomorrow's not promised. You wanted to take him on a 2-week fishing trip. It's a lot easier to motivate people for their own whys and remind them what the goals are and how they can accomplish it quicker. And how do you have the vendors win? Well, if our product mix is right, they're making way more money. They're more than willing to help. How do I have the customer win and refer us to everybody they know and make sure they had a great experience? Is build a business where everybody wins. Unlike a game, there doesn't need to be winners and losers. I mean, Donald Trump wrote a book, and I don't want to be controversial, non-political here, but he wrote The Art of the Deal. And a deal should have people both walking away saying this was good for us.
Yep.
And when you barter something, back in the day before money existed, you'd barter something because you got a good and you could trade it in for another good, and both parties won. And that's how I look at business. Everybody gets an opportunity to win. And if you start with why and really know the hot buttons of what somebody wants, it's not always money. That's the biggest fallacy in business is everybody wants to make more money. Yes, people could use more money, but that's not the number one reason they work for you. Some of them want to feel respected. Some of them want to feel, in our case with a bunch of male technicians, a brotherhood. Yep. Some of them want to just have people and friends to hang out with. 82% of people say they won't leave a company because they have a best friend there. And so where do you make best friends? You make them outside of work. You make them bowling and working out and going out to baseball games and hanging out with the wives and kids. And we really, really, really promote that stuff.
We've got a culture very similar to that where I work. Our president, one of the first things he told me was, I live my life by faith, family, community, career. And he said, I hope that all of our employees here can feel the joy of living their life the same way, to where work isn't just the stress jacket that you put on every morning. You can enjoy your work and you go home and enjoy your family, your community, your hobbies, your interests. Everybody wins. So it's refreshing to hear that in so many different ways. And I think it's also really good for listeners of the show to hear that, those kinds of companies, those kinds of leaders, those kinds of owners are out there. somebody's saying everybody needs to leave the company they're with. But sometimes, if you're looking for something different, you got to go do something different.
Well, the fact is that certain people do not want to be held accountable. Certain people want a lot of freedom, and that's okay depending on the position. Certain people want the system. We have a 15-minute meeting every single day that you work, Monday through Sunday. We have an hour-long meeting every Thursday. We have ride-alongs that we kind of mandate. We mandate PTO. We won't let you go without a vacation. Some people, they want more flexibility. They don't like accountability. But once you get used to it, you can't live without it. It's one of those things where you come to appreciate it. And if someone left our company and went to a smaller company and they said, okay, where's the scorecard? Did I do good or bad? Where's the meeting? Is there any more training? How do I become better? What's my opportunity to move up in the company? There's all these questions that and I was there, so don't take this the wrong way, but you lose, like, you're used to a pattern of excellence and you're used to hanging around with people that lift you up. And it's not easy. If you don't define what your culture is going to be with mission, vision, core values, and have a plan, the culture will build itself, and it won't be anything you like. If it's not a plan culture, it's not a good culture.
No, you're completely correct on that. And I've seen plenty of companies that just don't have a planned culture, just go after cycle after cycle after cycle of employees, and they can't seem to understand why nobody wants to stay.
Why would I work for you? That's
Exactly.
The first question I ask that guy or gal. I'd say, write down a list of 30 things why I'd work for you. Why would you work for you? What do you what's in it for me? The human, DNA is what's in it for me. I'm risking my whole family, my whole future on you. Why would I work for you? A lot of people say, well, you work for me because I took all the risks and I took all the chances and I'm helping put food on your plate. That's not good enough. Not now.
No, not anymore.
90s.
No, and I think people like yourself that have continued to feed back into the trade industries have seen more and more people start to realize that they deserve more, and they deserve more of an opportunity to win. I think despite the fact that the HVAC industry is constantly just in over our heads in terms of how behind we are on labor needs, one of the best things I've started to see in technicians now that are 30 and younger is more and more asking for training. They're forcing their bosses to ask for training. How can I learn about this? How can I learn this? Before, everyone went to training because the boss paid $30 a head and we got to go. You're starting to finally see people, and don't get me wrong, there were plenty of people that asked for it before, but not the way it's starting to with this next group of people. You're seeing more and more people that are asking for how can they grow themselves to grow in the business. So I think it's coming. It's starting to really trend that way, which is a huge positive for the industry overall.
Well, Ron Smith in the 60s wrote HVAC Spells Wealth. In 1991, Frank Blau started what we now call Minnesota. What is that? Frank Blau and George Brazil, Julian Scadden, Next Star Network. I mean, look,
Yep.
HVAC plumbing electrical is a $180 billion industry going on $200 billion. Like, the reason I studied HVAC for 6 years is because I looked for the industry with the most private jets. And no one's even close. No one's even freaking close. If you're in HVAC today and you don't have ambitions of having $10 million in your account in the next 3 years, if you're in the owner seat, now if you're in the tech seat, you should have $1 million within the next 5 years in your bank account. It's there, 100%. Unless you're horrible with money, and that's one of the bigger things A1 does, is we want you to be financially stable. We want you to understand profit first for employees. We want you to understand, they didn't teach us in high school and college about managing your credit cards and delayed gratification and living below your means to invest in assets that grow over time instead of depreciate. So that's one of the things we really harp on here is like giving people financial ability. Like I meet technicians that make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year that literally have $300 in their bank account. because they've learned to spend just like Americans spend so much.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I learned to save, man. I mean, every day my dad gave me we bought one piece of candy every Sunday after church. And after 2 months, I'd have one piece of candy. If I got like certs with 20 in them, I'd have one. And I kept them all. And then my sister would make friends with me and we'd eat it all. And then I'd start over again.
So another big thing that's come from all the work you've done is you're also doing the Freedom event, and it's grown significantly. So what do you think sets it apart from other industry conferences?
Well, conferences usually have two things. They have tactical and they have mindset. I try to incorporate both. And, you know, when you're on a plane, the stewardess says, when the oxygen masks, please put it over yourself. I really talk a lot about helping yourself first. And that happens usually outside of work, like getting sleep, not being on energy drinks, not being completely wasted and fried where your sleep actually matters. And then, you know, I just got baptized. I've been a man of God for a long time, and I don't believe that you have to believe in my God. I just think having faith really helps you become a better person and make better decisions. As I talk about a full round, when I look at success, I don't think of money. I think of so much more. I think of really a good father and a good mother. If I look at your credit card bills and your calendar, I'll tell you what your priorities are. So, you know, the home service freedom is really about freedom, but it's about becoming your best self. Because, you know, hell on earth would be meeting the version of yourself that was a good parent, that was a good son or daughter, that really showed up for the people around them, that actually gave more than they received, and, you know, having a clear head. And yes, money is a piece of that. It is a tool. And I think there's so many people out there that just, they're grinding. They don't really know. Once they make the money, they realize that's not this. Yes, they get a little bit more freedom, but it's not what makes people happy. It's not what brings this. I've seen people make hundreds of millions of dollars that still are ready to commit suicide. So I go a lot deeper than just KPIs, but I know every KPI down to the decimal point. And I preach about knowing your numbers and getting more training and being around the right people. Getting in the right rooms is probably 90% of it. I've never seen, if you ever went golfing and you got a foursome and these guys golf together for years, usually they're within a couple points of the handicap. I never really see a group of four that make it for years together, and one guy's a 20, the rest are like scratch. You know, you kind of become who you hang out with in every aspect of life.
I agree.
And my goal is that when people come to this freedom event, we're having one on September 25th in San Diego. But when people come to this event, they start understanding what is really what they're capable of. And they haven't dreamt big enough. They've never wanted it enough. They never really thought it was possible, because they hang around with people that say you can't. There's no way that's possible. It's easy for you to say. You know, maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's a, you know, it could be a wife or husband of yours that just, you got to have people that believe in you, that get behind you in a big way. And some people, you got to change the room. And I think this is the right room. I think it's better than most, because we lift each other up.
A huge one is being around the right people. You know, I've seen plenty of people that had a lot of promise be around the wrong people for too long, and it just fall apart. Seen it happen growing up, seen it happen to people that, you know, when I knew them growing up, they were in a great place, and then you see them 10 years later and you find out, you know, where their life went, and you start looking at who the people they were around when it happened. Like, well, that's, what else did you expect to happen? You know, you can't always, you know, for me, it was one of the biggest things was realizing I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. I don't. Because if I'm the smart one in the room, I'm going to get lazy. I need to have that challenge of how can I figure out a way to be there. And then if I get there, then maybe it's time for something else. It's the only way to keep learning.
I'm a very curious guy, and I think that's a great attribute. Is I don't have a lot of things figured out. I'm amazed by people. I ask so many questions. And, you know, I tend to find people that have been where I want to go. And I'm at a point in my life where for some reason they take my phone call. And I'm genuinely interested in them. And to be curious, to be genuinely interested in somebody, It's a powerful combo. It's a knockout punch. And people want to share. They want to talk about their big wins. And, I'm just getting started. I'm in the fetal stages of what I'm working on. But, I think I could affect a lot of lives. I think I could affect millions of lives in a positive way. And I do get a lot of satisfaction out of watching people that I had a part in winning. I mean, there's not a lot of better feelings than that. I don't feel like they're indebted to me by any way. I'm not like the Godfather that's going to call on them one time and tell them what I need them to do. I just, maybe selfishly, I like to watch people win and knowing I had impact, because there's really not a whole lot of better feelings than saying my life was in literally a mess and getting ready to go through a divorce, and my kids barely saw them. And now the marriage is better than ever. I feel great about my body, my smile, taking care of myself. I've got more energy. The business is going great. And, we're spending more quality time in changing lives, because that's a movement. It's much bigger than I could ever be. But I want to have a part in that, and I want to continue to contribute.
Knowing where you are now, you said your future is continuing to help people win. Are there any other kind of different future plans as you expand, home service experts, you expand Freedom Event? Is it just any other additional things out there that you can add to those things to continue helping people win? Are there other things out there that you're bringing soon, or what are you thinking on?
Yeah, I think I'll get to the point next year where I'm putting out 4 bestsellers a year. Unlike most people, I don't need to make money in a lot of, the event doesn't make profit. It actually loses money. My goal of the event is one day I'll find the one gold nugget in there that I can apply to my business, or get behind a person that I absolutely love being around that actually makes me a better person, and I could invest in their business. So it's kind of a way to find people. Not everything needs to be for profit. It's not a 501(c) nonprofit, but at the same time, the stuff that I get for my soul is worth more. I make money doing garage doors, and it's a great business. And there are a lot of businesses I have that make very good profit. But, I bought a really nice house so that I could have my dad's 70th birthday and my mom's 70th birthday and Bree's niece that's 3 years old, Hayden's birthday. Spend quality time and have memories. I didn't buy it to say, look at me. I bought it because this is a fun factory of stories and life. And every day is a fun token for me. And if I could do the things, it's not like I have plans of helping a lot of people, and just these rich experiences of joy. And it's never meant to be this idea of look at what I've done. It's more of I like to teach guys how to fish rather than give them a fish. But part of it is, I have this crazy idea of going on 4 golf trips a year. We're building a beautiful house in Idaho, and just our house in Paradise Valley, Arizona, of just doing 1 week every 3 months where I bring, 10 of my closest friends, or 12 or 8, and we go fishing, we go golfing, we play, sports, we go play games, and we have a blast. And we're around each other's families, and there's a lot of, and then they go back and impact a lot of other lives. And, just, I want to see the world. And, I really look up to Elon Musk because a lot of people don't like him, and I don't really care. I think he's helping out mankind in a big way. I think he doesn't come rooted in evil, although anybody that has money, a lot of people think are evil because they don't have it, and they never will.
Yep.
So of course,
exactly right.
These people, and of course, it's all jealousy and envy. They don't look at people with money because they'll never have it. They don't have the balls to make money. They won't take risks. They won't work hard enough. People will say they work so hard, but they don't even understand financial literacy. And that's okay. I was born in the United States of America. I'm already blessed in more ways. And I just been in the right rooms at the right place at the right time. And I don't think money is evil. In the Bible, it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil.
You're 100% correct. 100% correct when it comes to that. Because it's literally, if you read scripture, it's about manage your money, use money as a tool. That's what it's there for. Money isn't a bad thing. It allows you to give more memories, more things, and help more people over a long-term period of time. It's just a tool. You just have to learn how to manage it. Some of what you're even saying that makes you start thinking about Dave Ramsey, just because all I can hear is, well, sometimes, if you want the discipline, you got to amputate the Tahoe. I think that's one of the funniest things I've heard him say. But it's, but it's, if you want to have something different in life, you have to stop doing the same old thing you were doing and do something different. You have to be willing to go do something different, and you might fall on your face, but you found one more way that it didn't work. I guess it just means you got to do something else different. So, that falls right in line with anything about how, I want this show to even help people realize that work on yourself, work on others, but it's about giving good and doing good. And that's what makes everybody win. Any last advice, words of encouragement, fellow business owners, future technicians we haven't touched on? Anything else you want to throw out there before we start to wrap up?
It doesn't cost any money to ask. And people are like, well, how do you know who to ask? If you want to be number one on Google, you search a trade in a big market and you find who's number one and you go ask them. If you want to be number one on Yelp or Thumbtack or Yelp or Angie, if you want to be a really good golfer, go ask the best golfer or go find somebody that's a scratch golfer. If you want to be a good father, go ask somebody that shows up for their family. If you want to be in good shape, go find a trainer that looks like you want to look like. It's not that hard. Success leaves clues. And I would say just be open to technology. I use Chirp. Chirp is amazing. It helps me. It literally brings me an extra $1 million a month because it follows up with leads. It follows up with abandoned calls. It's an automation tool. I use Rilla Voice because I could know what's going on with the technicians. The Success leaves clues, so I could replicate the best conversion rates, average tickets when I know I'm getting a 5-star review. I use Power BI. I use Service Titan. I use Pin Parrot to rank better on Google. That automates new posts to the GMB that helps me rank above everybody else. Technology is an important thing. And then I got really organized using the 7-Power Contractor. If you haven't read the 7-Power Contractor, read it. Readers are leaders. What changed my life in the last 2 years is this book, actually about a year ago, Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell. Now I pay him an exorbitant amount of money to meet with him for an hour a month. And if I didn't do that, if I didn't invest in myself, if I didn't become better, if I didn't elevate myself, I really would not be worthy of the people I'm around. I needed to get better. And I invest millions of dollars into self-help for myself, literally millions of dollars a year. And I think that's the key, is a lot of people are trying to change everyone else, but they're not looking in the mirror. And if you want to figure out the answers, just find the best and ask, because they're more than willing to help most of the time.
No, that's a great one. And what's funny is, I've seen where you've done stuff with Chirp. Chirp has also been, those guys have been on our show. They're in our vendor hub as a Service Titan. I love that you're using a lot of the same stuff that we talk about on here too. So when you guys go to hvacrnd.com, you can check out BetterHelp, Chirp, Service Titan. All those things are in there. You can also please make sure to go and follow Tommy on Instagram and TikTok at official Tommy Mello. That's official TOMMYMELLO. And also check the link tree in his bio, because there's links to all kinds of different resources that he has out there that you guys can access. I really appreciate you, Tommy, taking some time to speak with me, talk with the trade crew. Guys, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd. Find the HVAC R&D podcast on LinkedIn, Trade Hounds, and Facebook. Join those communities. Thank you so much for listening to the show on your favorite platform. Please remember to like and rate the show, leave us a review, share the show with your trade crew. And I really just appreciate your time, everybody. Hope y'all have a great week. I'll catch y'all soon. Peace.